And we all like to sit here on social media and talk about Hillary Clinton this or Donald Trump that or whoever, whatever the trending topic is at the time. But we don't like to get up off our butts and go do anything about it. So for the younger generation, I can't say, and I voted last time, I can't say I saw a whole lot of people, give or take 5 to 8 years my age, last time I went to go vote. They just weren't there. So, I mean, they like to talk about the problems, but they don't like to act on the problems.
Yeah.
I think Hillary Clinton knows that, and that's a statistic, and they study those sorts of things. So she's not going to pander to a group of people that's not going to be out there voting.
You know, like I would only they do have a lot of voting power along with them, and it's not. And I would agree with you. It's not looking pretty hopeful for the younger generation that they're not going out of their way to try to vote for them. Because like sometimes whenever I talk to some really young people, like probably like 18, 19, 20, and you ask them these questions revolving around politics or political candidates and whatnot, it's not really something that really crosses their mind. It's not, and I understand why, but I think that probably needs to change.
Right. Well, I mean, something else to think about is, I mean, and I'm 26. I just turned 26 last 2 months ago, and I mean, I'm so busy between 3 kids and 2 jobs that I don't have time really to get too involved with whatever's going on politically. I mean, I might hear a thing or two in passing from some of the guys at work. Honestly, I think my fiance is probably a little bit more well-versed with what's going on as far as current events goes, that I am. But, we'll still talk about things, but it's not really, personally, I don't feel like I get a whole lot of time to look at that sort of stuff. I used to take a lot of time and get involved in that, but I've kind of had to dial back a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's that. Yeah. So once again, I end up kind of falling back into the armchair activism category, which I know I'm sitting here talking a lot of trash about them, but I mean, hey, I do it sometimes too.
And what do you think, Mr. Quentin?
Oh shit, we actually on right now. Oh,
yeah, we on. Yeah, episode 7, because Mr. Blake was on fire just now.
I was like, oh shit. I was like,
we're live.
No intro, we just freestyling. Okay,
yeah,
that's all good.
Episode 7, Critical Dump. Hey everybody, my boy Mr. Blake. Mr. Blake is on. Mr. Blake, introduce yourself, my good sir.
My name's Blake. That's really all I got. There's not a whole lot about me. I'm pretty simple. pretty simple. Got 2 jobs, 3 kids. Fiance. I don't think there's anything too crazy to say other than that. So.
Man, we gotta work on your pull-out game for a while, man. We gotta stop having them babies popping out.
No, I don't need any more of them. I'm good on that. No more of them.
Oh man. All right, as always, I am Qsimp 05, and the question I was asked is, how do I feel why younger voters are not voting? I do agree that some people they talk a good game, but as far as putting those thoughts into action, that's probably not going to happen, because either no one knows what to do, no one really wants to put themselves out there, because I mean, to really put yourself out there is to really put yourself in harm's way, and we all know people are going to just say, hey, self-preservation is the key. I don't want to put myself in harm's way. Somebody else got to do it. I'll just talk about it. But there is a lot of people who are, let's say, younger, who would look into politics as a big farce, as if, well, me voting means nothing. Me going out to do it, they're going to put who they want there anyway. And, of course, you have all the conspiracies and everything about it, which there's a lot of information that would go towards it. But then, you have other people who say, well, it does work if you just actually use it, or, hey, people died to be able to have this right, and so on and so forth. So I think it's more of a mixed bag as far as why younger people are not wanting to vote. It seems like it's a generational thing, because most older people, especially in our I guess say in our race, I don't even really want to use that term, but in our demographic, especially with streaming back to the civil rights, they'll tell you, hey, you better go vote because people fought to do this. And then you got younger ones who be like, ah, food, they don't mean anyway.
And you know, there are actually some surprisingly good people who are part of the younger generation, who are trying to get their message out. But you know, in part, you know, just like how at the DNC, some of these people may not necessarily they are growing up into a world where the idea of a rigged system is already there. So it's sort of hard to sort of appeal to them and say, hey, you know, you actually have a voice. You can do something about this. It's just going to take a lot of work, but to try to get that motivation and get them going, you know, I can't really fault him necessarily for that so much, but I can. But it is still their responsibility in part to sort of get out there and try to make a change. It's just that I just don't know how. Like how can we motivate people to really do something like that?
You want me? Well, they have to see results. That's the only way people are really motivated to try to do anything. Which I would say, voting on the federal level, it is sketchy because let's just be honest, big business runs your federal government. So money is going to kind of sway that vote one way or another. And of course, with you saying that people are growing up in an age where they feel it's rigged anyway, and then what happened with Bernie Sanders that really helped the situation because it kind of just made it a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, see, I told you, shit's fucked up. But when you look at it, voting really does play a role, especially when it comes to the local level. That's where you really can exact way more change than you can on the federal level, in my opinion.
Hey Blake, what do you think about mandatory voting? I think that's sort of a practice that happens in
European
Australia.
countries.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of good ideas out there. Do I think mandatory voting is necessarily the best one? No. I mean, because what are you going to do about it? And I mean, what I mean by that is, look at how the Healthcare Act, the recent Healthcare Act, worked out. We said, hey, you have to go online, you have to get some kind of health care, and people just didn't do it. People were like, well, I think I'll just take the fine. I think I'll just take the fine. And that worked for some people, didn't work for other people. I mean, it was a great idea. And when I think the execution on that needs to be implemented, but that's a story for another time. Needs to be kind of improved on, but I mean, do I think making voting mandatory is a good idea? In theory, yes. In practice, probably not. And once again, that's going to do more with the mindset of the people that you're working with. I mean, if you have, you know, millennials, no offense, in, you know, I guess anybody between the ages right now, 18 to, let's just say, 30, 35, okay, running around, doesn't really see that the electoral process or the voting process has really worked out favorably for anybody. It hasn't worked out well, I say anybody. I mean, for the American people as a whole, I think, yeah, you're going to see a lot of discouraged individuals. You have the civil rights movement that, you know, that's been going on for well over a century, is still going on, and you still don't see the results that we want. You have voting, and it seems like what you were saying, Quentin. You see voting happen, and you don't get results. And I mean, I think that is a problem. So, you know, why make mandatory voting, or why make voting mandatory if you're not going to see the results, or if you feel like you're not going to see the results? Because then you're going to just have people doing, you know, exactly what I was just saying a minute ago, like with the Affordable Care Act. Well, I'll just take a fine. Fine me. Who cares? What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Which is honestly, which is the justice system as a whole. It's not just voting. It's not just American politics. It's, I mean, what are you going to do about it?
Eric, you gonna say or
Well, no, go ahead. I was trying to formulate my thoughts, but
go ahead. If you got it.
well, I do think that the healthcare and the voting are two slightly different situations, and I do agree though that for some people they would. Some people probably wouldn't even bother going over there out of their way to vote. But I think it's a little bit different, a bit of a different situation to ask somebody, hey, just take a little bit of time out your day to go and vote, as opposed to, hey, you need to spend $200, $300, $400 a month in health care. I mean, it's the what you're asking of people is a little bit different.
It's definitely different. Yeah.
It can be equated because you're asking them to give their time. You're telling me to go give my time to a system that I have not seen anything
Benefit.
from,
Yeah.
any benefit. So without my vote, what is it really? How is it detrimental without me doing it? So yes, if I go vote, and it really should have been shed a lot back in the 2000 when Al Gore won the popular vote, but Bush became the president because of the Electoral College. So it's been shown multiple times where it's like, hey, we're going out here, we're voting for this guy, we backing this guy, but the results are not where we see them. And it's a simple thing. You know, you go into psychology of people. If some people are continue to try something and it's not working out for them, some people just give up altogether and say, hey, phooey on it, I'm done.
But I wonder, like, what is it that necessarily is causing for us to not get these results? Like, for some of the situations, you know, so like the DNC, the email situation, that was pretty clear cut as to what was happening in that case. Plus, there's also the situation of the super delegates. That there's a few, I think it's like 2 states at this point that are trying to undo that practice. That sort of shifts a lot of the voting power in the favor of a candidate like Hillary Clinton. And I would like to see that the superdelegates just be a thing of the past. And I don't necessarily see it happening anytime soon. But that is a very welcome change to the situation. And I think that it can be potentially helpful for people to get out there and do something about it. But the way that we've gotten to this point, to this political landscape that it is right now, is a lot of these issues hasn't really been addressed right now. So it just sort of deteriorated into what we know now of the system. And it could be something better, but it needs this cooperation from a great deal of many people in order to get there. But if you have this pessimistic attitude towards it all the time, you're not really benefiting the situation at all. You're really in the long run, you could potentially actually make it worse by not doing anything about it, because at some point in time, it's going to have a downward spiral effect on you if you don't necessarily get involved in the situations. So I actually think the opposite of, even though you may not necessarily see an immediate return on it, by you not getting involved in it and not keeping track of all of that, it's going to be worse a little bit further down in the line, if not right now.
Yeah, but, you know.
I agree. I would agree with that, but it doesn't mean that everybody's going to see it that way either. As much sense as that makes, because that makes perfect sense. What you said makes perfect sense, but if people don't see it that way, then once again it becomes a matter of what can you do.
And you can even sit there and say, for your lower income people or particular social groups, if they say, hey, how much worse can it really get for me if I'm already in the slums? What worse can you do to me? I mean, so
well,
I mean, but these are things. I'm just playing the devil's advocate. These are things that come through people's minds. It's like, hey, I've been getting fucked over for X amount of years already. I'm already at the bottom. What you gonna do? Steal my box now? I mean, so
Or start putting down spikes in certain cities where people without homes would like to sleep or
yeah.
beaten on. Yeah, it can get a little bit worse. It can get worse, but if you already feel like you're getting screwed as it is, then why do you care?
Yeah, I mean, I look at it like this. Let's put it in real sense. If you feel you're in a bad relationship, how we interact with most things is a relationship. So if you feel like you're in a bad relationship and it's not going to get any better, most people quit, right? If you feel like you put all you can in and you worked for it and you're like, all right, man, look, it's run its course. There's nothing I can do. We can't reconcile any of this. We just got to call it. And I think that's how a lot of people are with our current political system on a federal level. And that's why you get, even when you look at these elections, how many people are really voting for someone that they think is really going to lead us to the next 4 to 8 years? Or are they just really voting because I just don't want that guy? So we turned it into a popularity contest. Really, the popular vote is just a popularity contest.
Yeah, when I compare Donald Trump to Hillary Clinton, like there are some policies that when I assess Donald Trump, that even he is a little bit more left on than Hillary Clinton. Like, of course, him stating his opposition to the TPP, which, for quite some time, the Democratic Party, or a particular subgroup of the Democratic Party, wanted Hillary Clinton to be against. But it's kind of surprising that you would get something like that out of Trump.
Well, as a businessman, and I'm not totally familiar with the specifics in TPP, but as a business owner, what would he? I guess the question you'd have to ask on that is, what does he have to gain out of that?
I would imagine.
Does he profit from a no stance on TPP, or does he lose?
He potentially garners some supporters, especially some supporters from the Bernie camp, which it's been very, very well known that Bernie has been against the TPP, and he's even made public statements, and by he I mean Donald Trump, that he's actually trying to go after the Bernie Sanders supporters. So he could potentially hook them in by advocating for policies like that. And I don't really know whether or not he's really honest about whether or not he's really against the TPP. Because there was a friend of mine who I used to speak I speak with on occasion, and he always brings up how straightforward or a straight shooter Donald Trump is, but with Donald Trump, even though he kind of shoots from the hip or whatever, I guess as the saying goes, he still backpedals regardless of that. It's just that he has a very tactful way of doing it. Like he just blows off any kind of statements he made, any kind of false statements he's made in the past. And Hillary Clinton is always just like, she's got this way of like, she makes some statements and she's stumbling on herself, or she's like, oh well, I can't comment on that, or she don't want to admit fault to anything. She just has this very broad stroke way of doing things, where Donald Trump just has a very straightforward way of lying to your face, and he still gets supporters regardless of that. It's really
I think
amazing.
he's delusional, personally. I think he's delusional.
Oh man.
But that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm crazy for thinking that.
No, I agree.
No, because I was gonna say, I was like, wait, hold on, okay. If he's so genuine, so does that mean when he called the arms against Hillary, that's our Second Amendment people who like the Second Amendment should go after her. You know, even though he didn't technically say it, but he implied it.
Oh, Blake, do you know about that situation?
I had heard a little bit about that. The whole it was something to do, I think, with Hillary Clinton appointing Supreme Court justices, right?
Yeah.
And Donald Trump comes out and says, well, you know, if you have her appointing Supreme Court justices, you know, I'm not saying anything, but, you know, the Second Amendment people, I mean, we have that, you know, there's always the Second Amendment, and it's like, dude, are you serious right now? Like,
Yep.
did you really come out and say that?
Hey, Donald just put a hit out on Hillary, man. He better. First of all, Donald better remember how OG Hillary had that CIA director scared right there under oath. Hey, nobody but a gangster can sit there and have someone say, hey, in most cases, I'm not saying that you would go to jail, but in this particular case, we're saying she's not going to go to jail.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing right there was like, I mean, I know some people that were kind of on the fence about the whole Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump thing, and at that point they were like, you know what, fuck Hillary Clinton, I'm just going to vote with Trump, and I'm like, but he's still a nutcase. I mean, Hillary may be a liar, but the guy's a nutcase. I mean, like nuttier than a fucking fruitcake, you know?
Is he our version of like? Is he like the Joker? If the Joker would become the president, Heath Ledger Joker, or is he more like the what's the current actor right now Joker? I forget his name.
Oh, Jared Leto?
Yes, Jared Leto.
No, Donald Trump is the Kim Kardashian of politics. He's popular, but you're very confused on why. It's like, why? What talent does he have to get him to this position?
But hey, Quentin, I do remember that you had actually brought a news story to my attention, and I think you probably remember this one. What are your thoughts on this?
You're talking about how a lot of people are jumping ship and want to kind of basically disown Donald Trump. Is that what we're referring to?
Yeah, I think actually you can see my. Do you see the screen share right now? I think you do.
Oh, all right. Hold on. Let me go to it. I was actually looking at it. All right. Yeah. So allegedly, up to about 70 people are trying to jump ship and say, "Hey, man, we getting off this before it heads to crap." So it's one of those situations. Like Dave Chappelle used to say, when keeping it real goes wrong, and you finally realize you fucked up. I think that's what the Republicans are kind of going through right now.
Yeah, and you know, I think we briefly had spoke on this earlier, and like even though I despise Donald Trump, but I in a way I sort of thought it was a little bit unfair for them to do the exact same thing to Trump, similar to like how they did, similar how the situation happened with Hillary. But at the same time, really, he hasn't done himself any kind of favors by going after people, like personal attacks against folks, not endorsing people in his own race. He just made a mess of it. Like it almost is like his behavior is like he's not really trying to so much cooperate and lead the people and make very precise critical points as to like how he wants this team to be ran. It's more along the lines of like you either get behind me, motherfucker, or you just a piece of shit. And that's just pretty much his rhetoric of how he refers to people in his party.
Oh man, Blake, what you got on that, man? You got anything to weigh in on D-Teezy?
I said I thought he was nuttier than a fruitcake, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But he deserves it as many times as you can throw it out there.
but I think that the better question is that you're fairly familiar with the situation that happened with how the DNC colluded against Bernie Sanders.
Right. I mean, as far as the DNC situation goes, I mean, first of all, I got to say I was a Bernie Sanders supporter. I think the whole falling in behind Hillary Clinton was a chicken shit thing to do, but I can also understand the reasoning for it. I got 3 little hellions out here with me now, so
Hey man, it's all good.
you might have to. I might have to make sure nobody runs out into the middle of the road and gets splattered.
Oh,
Yes.
But okay, calm down, bud. As far as, well, I mean, as far as the DNC, I guess what do you really want to know my opinion on? Because I think the whole thing's kind of a shit show.
Well, I think you're aware of the collusion that had happened over there, but how do you feel about it? But it seems like it's beginning to happen to Donald Trump and his own party, where they're now colluding against him.
Right. And you had said, you get behind me or you're trash, basically, right? Is what is kind of Donald Trump's response there. I think that's characteristic of the personality that we've seen from him so far. I don't think it's surprising. I mean, do I think that he's alienated his people? Absolutely. Do I think that, this kind of behavior is going to be bad news for the GOP? Absolutely. I mean, I kind of feel like the Republican Party at this point is more or less in disarray. I mean, you have a few camps. I think Trump had kind of a strong camp, and just kind of after the stunts that he's pulled, that crowd's kind of thinning out a little bit. I mean, he does have some very strong supporters, and I mean, let's not kid ourselves, they're fanatical. Zealotry, I guess you could almost say, in a almost religious sense. This guy. I mean, hey, I'm just telling you what you asked me how I felt about it.
Are you saying that Donald Trump is people's messiah?
Oh no! I'm saying people probably think he is, but I mean he's kind of coming off more like Adolf Hitler to me.
I mean, people probably do look at him in that as he's the messiah of politics. He's going to help bring us to the next generation. Even though, like, maybe I'm confused. I'm going to ask you all this question. Do you know any of his plans?
Do I know any of his plans? No.
Okay, Eric. What about you? He said a lot, but what are his actual plans?
Not really much so. Like he said, his plan is like more broad strokes of the general propositions of what he wants to do, but there's really no tangible plans that you can really take apart. I think actually recently he released his economic plan. I have to take some time to look at that, but other than that, nothing really to really talk about. A lot of the language he's using sort of swings of the old familiar Republican vibes or Republican plans. Kind of been there, done that. We've already kind of been down this road, but why are you bringing this back up? Like, well, the old method is tried and true. It kind of works. No, not really. That's why it's the old method. It didn't work.
Man, I can't, like I told you earlier, man. Honestly, I will be glad if somehow towards the end of this Trump come out and say, hey man, y'all, I was just bullshitting. I wasn't really running for real. I was just here because they asked me to be here, and it was fun while it lasted. At least.
Well, I mean, he's even come out and said too, any publicity is good publicity, and I'll live a great life whether or not I get elected.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's literally what he said. So.
See, but I think in people's heart, outside of people who are in his cult, that's what I'm gonna call it. They're not Trump followers. They're his cult.
Oh, singing the praises of sweet Donald Trump.
D-Teezy all the way. He's here to bring us to the promised land of politics. But
praise Jesus, it's Donald Trump.
It's funny because I think for most people they'll be like, oh, thank because he couldn't have been serious. I mean, the things he said, you can't take the man serious.
Well, man, this is going to be a very interesting ride. I'm trying to see what else we got in the news. I think we got one more news article that kind of came up. And actually, I think you're a little bit more informed about this particular situation. I kind of hear bits and pieces on it, but then there was the matter of the conspiracy theory that came out for Mr. Mr. Obama as the founder of ISIS.
Oh yeah, I've heard. Trump was in that again. Man, this man keep making headlines. I guess it's.
I think we're probably going to have to take some time to curate some out of all of this stuff, but he's hitting multiple points. He's hitting everything. He's like he's a brand in itself.
Hey, y'all back up off of there.
Which it's funny because I can't even say I get where it goes, but like the story on how they will say that Al Qaeda was CIA. CIA trained Al Qaeda in order to fight off Russia during the invasion, and then they turn around and turned on them. And maybe he's trying to say that ISIS is just Al Qaeda rebranded. But then again, how would Obama and or Hillary have anything specifically to do with that, as if they were the masterminds behind all of it? That I don't agree with. But I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I guess my question to y'all on that note would be, how much do y'all know about how the whole bullshit in the Middle East and the Cold War and all that kind of got started, where it had its foothold there back in the 40s and 50s? Are y'all familiar with that at all?
I am a little bit.
I feel like it kind of goes back that far.
Oh yeah, was it the alleged fight of the spread against communism, quote unquote?
Well, I mean, hey, look, y'all, come on, put pen on the door. Well, I mean, I guess what I'm talking about is, you have the U.S. going in replacing leaders with people that we're favorable with. You have us kind of having our pissing match with Russia, and I mean, frankly, I think all of the conflict that's going on in the Middle East right now, I really sincerely believe that if we hadn't had a bunch of fat cats and frankly playground bullies getting into pissing contests with each other back in the 50s, we wouldn't even be in this mess in the first place. It would not be an issue. So, I mean, saying that Obama created ISIS is just, in my opinion, absolutely laughable. I mean, how are you going to credit the guy with creating ISIS? I mean, you can't say that was up to the folks running the show back when we had the Cold War going on, back before Desert Storm and Ajax and all that junk back then. I mean,
well, yeah, we were intertwined with our neighbor Cuba. That's how we put Fidel Castro into place. The CIA was the one that led the coup d'etat to get him there. And then, of course, he backtracked on it. We led many in Vietnam. That's why we were over there a lot of times. So a lot of people don't want to, that's parts of history that the pages are stuck together, so nobody knows.
Yeah, and you get fed the history that you're taught, and most people aren't going to think twice to go back over that and find out, hey, well, what really actually happened? But I mean, I think that's all very important when we're talking about. And I mean, it may not necessarily seem like it, but I mean, you're talking about things that are going on now that are, a very similar pattern to what was going on when that happened. So I mean, I think it's time for a good review of history, if that makes sense. I mean, I think.
What are you telling people to go learn? How dare you?
I am telling people to go learn. That's important. No, I'm not telling people to learn. Actually, what I'm saying is don't believe anything you're told. Question.
Wait.
Anything that you're taught.
First, you're telling me to read a book, and to go learn. And now you're telling me to be objective? How dare you, sir? We live in America.
Oh, no, not objective. I would never say that. Just don't assume that everything I tell you is the truth.
I think he probably is saying that to exercise critical thinking.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. That is correct. That's my request.
All
But
right.
to be critical, aren't you technically being objective because you're not picking apart? You're going to see both sides of the argument first before you make an actual decision?
Well,
I guess
think,
so. I mean, but this is the critical dump, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, man, good one, dude. Love it. Well, on that note, folks, is everybody good to wrap up on the critical dump? He done already did it.
Yeah, I think I'm good. Hey, man, it's got a lot of work to do. That's all I can say as far as this, everything going on. And a message to Donald: stay out of the news, man. Stop talking.
Oh, man, I'll agree with you there. All right,
Oh, man. Everybody want to say their goodbyes.
All right, well, signing off on the live broadcast, everybody. Peace out.
All right.
Y'all
later.